All righty. I now call to order this continued council meeting. And before we start, I just want to, I know everybody's thinking about Bobby Daniels. I heard there was an operation today, and there are some encouraging signs, but everybody is praying for Bobby. He's in St. Mary's. Apparently had a stroke, but I heard a good report about an hour ago. And of course, we're also thinking about everybody involved in last night's pursuit that brought Blackstone and Fort Pickett to the national news front. Quite a story there. But anyway, we have a brief agenda, but a very important agenda. And the first item on that agenda is an appeal. It's a matter involving real estate taxes regarding the property owned by Ms. Brenda White. She does have someone here on her behalf, her daughter, Latia. Is it Bonet or Boney? Boney, okay. I guess we'll let members of town staff, you do have a packet, information from the town staff, and Brittany, thank you for being very thorough. And the town manager can provide the highlights, but this is one of those situations where I was contacted. The mayor doesn't have the authority to grant what the appellate wants, neither does the town manager. This is one of those matters that will come to the council. And it mainly involved, it's about a delinquent real estate account, but I think one of the main points of contention that's being looked at is the attorney's fees.
That's one request.
That's the request. Yeah, go right ahead. And I'm going to allow, even though this is a continued meeting and not a public hearing, I'm going to allow Ms. Boney, if she would like to respond after, at some point, the floor will be, you'll have a chance as well.
I think Brittany gave you a timeline.
She did.
Of what went down. The taxes were delinquent from 2012 to 2017, as I understand. Is that correct? Okay. And I think Brittany did have some communications with Ms. White and even established a payment plan for Ms. White. Ms. White made a payment, is that correct? And then by February, there had been 2 payments that had not been received. And so Brittany forwarded up to 2014, through 2014 to Mr. Elliott for collection. Right, there was a whole series of folks that were sent to Jim Elliott. When Mr. Elliott received stuff, I don't think Mr. Elliott waives fees. We called him to ask him if he would waive his fee. The question arises is, in our evaluation of what went on, when Brittany notified Jim Elliott's office, Jim Elliott did send a notice, but it didn't get received because the address didn't include an apartment number. And I don't know if that was that Brittany left it off or they didn't include it in their correspondence, whatever, but there was a letter or a notice that wasn't received. The next step was, because Jim Elliott's office hadn't received the notice, that it goes in the paper. And that's when Ms. White saw it in the paper. What's going on?
Right. And other people in that area, right.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, the end result is it's an account that's delinquent significantly. And I think the request from Ms. White is a waiver of $468 in attorney's fees. I think Mr. Elliott would still do the collections, but the attorney's fees would be paid prior to a payment agreement being agreed upon, and a payment of not less than $100, I think, is the due.
Say they want that last part again?
If you read Mr. Elliott's letter,
Yes.
the one that was sent to you by Ms. White,
Yes.
I think it's $468 in legal fees.
Right.
In legal fees, and I think he's also requesting that she make that payment prior to having her payment plan approved. And I don't think Mr. Elliott's office accepts payment plans of less than $100.
Okay.
But he will not waive his fees per his.
But he does accept the payment plan?
He does a payment plan.
I didn't realize it. Did not realize that.
He does that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the payments go directly to Jim Elliott's office. They don't come to us. So
Yeah.
they sent me a letter asking for a payment plan to be approved for Ms. White, and I approved $100 per month starting June 15th.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And then she would send her payments directly to
Her contention is because the address is, the notice was not sent because of the address issue, that they shouldn't have gone into the newspaper, and subsequently they're asking for $468 to be waived, and the town pay it on their behalf.
Right.
Jim Elliott is not waiving it,
Right, it won't be waived. The
so the town would have to pay it on their behalf.
Okay. As town manager, do you have any recommendation, any thought on this?
Dig deep and figure out which one there.
What is council's pleasure is your answer.
You know the deal. Yeah,
Right.
what is council's pleasure?
Yeah, that's mighty convenient.
Here's one thing that did tug at my heartstrings about what Ms. White, and it may be a technicality, whatever, but there was a notice in the paper that there's going to be a foreclosure. And had she received the notice, she would have taken action
She could have avoided
to
it.
stop that. You know, that's something everyone always wants to stop, getting that, you know, not only the foreclosure process, but certainly the part that includes the name of the
But if
paper.
she had gotten the notice, let's assume she did, she would still have to pay the $468. That would have been waived.
Okay.
$468 would have been a fixed cost, whether she got the letter or not. What the letter if she had received it and it had been properly sent, that would have prevented her name going in the paper and possibly.
All right, so I wanna make sure I'm crystal clear. If, so, if it would've had the D on it and would've received it, the costs,
Would have been the same.
so she's not taking on any more costs because she didn't get the notice, is that what you're saying?
I think that's right. I mean, once it goes to Jim Elliott.
I have heartstrings too, but I don't think it's right for the taxpayers to pay something that was gonna have to be paid anyway,
Right.
regardless.
One thing she did ask me at one time, I don't know if it's a burning issue, I think, but I know, and this, I'm the wrong person to bring this up, but I'm also the mayor. The public was notified that there was going to be a foreclosure on the Brenda White property, and there more than likely will not be. She feels the town should also publish a notice saying that the foreclosure sale that was advertised erroneously because she never got the notification.
We can certainly ask Mr. Elliott if he'll do that, but I think inappropriate for the town.
Okay, that's fine.
We didn't egregiously do it. The notice was sent out by Elliott's office, and if he's willing to make an apology, but there's still a case of 6 years of unpaid taxes.
I understand,
So-
I understand. I want to
Did I understand you said this was the year 12 through 17?
Right, the delinquent taxes are 2012 through 17, what was sent to Mr. Elliott's office
That's
was
5
2012. Yes, sir. But I sent 2012 through 14 to Mr. Elliott's office because they only asked for a certain amount of years when they asked if they want help, on collections,
The town charging penalty, interest
every month,
every month?
yes.
I think this might be an appropriate time, if Ms. Boney would like to make any comments, this would be the time. It'd be great, it's being recorded, and this is on videotape and audio tape for the citizens' benefit as well.
Perfect, thank you. So, the issue at hand here is that the attorney fees should be waived, whether or not they are paid by the town, or whether or not they are just reassumed by the attorney's office. They should be waived because whenever a notice of delinquent tax payments are sent, whenever something of that level of importance is sent, it should be sent via certified U.S. mail, meaning not just sent like a Christmas card or in the same manner of a birthday card. Okay, it should be sent U.S. certified mail, and a signature. And this is to benefit both parties. A signature should be received, therefore notifying the sender and the receiver that such notice has been sent. The address was erroneously sent, and I'm not sure if many of the town people of Blackstone are aware of how apartment buildings are addressed, but there is one specified address of multiple houses, and if the addressing number of the unit, sometimes it's numbers, if that is not notified, well, it's null and void, because, so in case in point, the address is 4218 Edith Lane. Now, there are about 300 residents that live at 4218 Edith Lane. If the letter did not have the proper address on it stating Unit D. Therefore, Brenda White never received the notification that the taxes were delinquent. Had she received proper notification, of course, payments would have been made, or arrangements would have been made to ensure that those taxes were no longer delinquent. All right? So that's the first issue. It was it never should have been sent to the attorney's office, because proper notification, the first level of proper notification was not received. All right, so it never should have been sent to the attorney's office. That was an error of neglect, and that was an error of negligence on that office's part, or the town manager's part. Secondly, my name was added to the deed in 2015. Latia White Boney was added to the deed in 2015. Let's just say, if everything would have moved forward, and you would have encountered, and you would have moved forward to be able to make a sale, all right? You did not notify all members or all names who are listed on this property's deed. Therefore, that is, you would have had a defect in tax sale, okay? And I would have lawyered up extremely, okay? Because anytime you have more than multiple persons' names listed on a deed, whether it be the four person's name or whether it be, I don't care if it's 5 names on the deed, before you move forward with sending notices to the attorney's office, before you move forward with sending notices to the newspaper, all names on the deed need to be notified. To date, since 2015, it is now 2018, not sure if you realize. Since 2015, I have not received any communication regarding the property of 302 Fitzgerald Street, Blackstone, Virginia.
Excuse me just a second, so we don't get too far, I got a small mind here. But what we're talking about is from 2012 to 2014, is that correct?
I can
Okay.
speak on that.
Okay, but I mean, I understand that you're now on the deed, but I think.
It's not now. I've been on the deed for the last 3 years.
Yes, ma'am. What I'm saying is, since you.
You were added in
spoke
2015, you were added in 2015, and this is
we're-
2012 to 2014.
That's what we're
Right.
talking about.
Right, and so-
It's not germane to the situation, that you were on the deed at 2015.
If
Okay.
if my name is added to a deed, if occurrences happened 20, 30 years before it happened, I still should be privy to that knowledge. I should be privy to whatever.
Certainly a
happened
foreclosure
prior to.
sale. A foreclosure-
Most certainly a foreclosure sale.
Let's
Okay?
take a brief
Okay.
time out right here. I just want to make sure we're caught up. One thing I've been educated on today, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Mr. Elliott, and this will certainly be not our town staff's fault, but certainly we send out letters certified on mundane issues such as grass cutting. We need to implore Mr. Elliott to make sure that letters are
I
sent.
think we follow the town code said by certified, and I'm sure he follows the state code, which says probably doesn't have to be certified.
We need to ask him as someone who does business for us.
Hold on, you get your say now, hold on.
No, but excuse me.
hold on.
My
Let me
say,
finish.
my,
May I
no,
finish real quick?
my say was interrupted. I was
Yeah.
not finished.
Let her-
I still have the floor.
Let her finish her, let her finish.
I still have the floor. Thank you very
Let
much.
her finish, let her
I
finish.
respect the mayor's position.
So do I. He just said, let her finish.
I'm gonna
I am the her.
Miss Boney has the floor, but Mr. Van will have a chance to respond. Go right ahead, I'm sorry, go right ahead. I just want to make sure that we make a note. Certified is one of those things I think are very important. Certified letter to all people involved, but go ahead.
All right, so the years in question came up 2012 to 2017. The reason that those payments became delinquent, was because the original names on the deed, so the original owners of the deed, one of them was still living, okay? She continued to make those payments up until her death, okay? Her death was in 2013, all right? So after her death, my mother, then Brenda White, then assumed ownership of the deed as her name was added to the deed. So she was not aware that there were, and all of this is explicitly stated in the letters that were provided. And if you need hard copies, I have hard copies and I can provide them to you, okay? The reason that as soon as she learned of the delinquent tax status of the property, she entered into a payment agreement, all right? She only missed 2 payments. The explanation for the first missed payment was, and that's also explained, in November of 2017, Ms. White was diagnosed with a terminal illness, which is breast cancer, okay? So from November of 2017, that is when she received this diagnosis, and in January of 2018, this is when she came to live with me, Latia Boney, who is also the other name on the deed. This is when she came to live with me because she had to undergo major surgery related to that diagnosis, okay? So since I have been on the deed since 2015 and I had not been notified of the delinquent status, that is the point that we're trying to make. I had no knowledge that the property was under delinquent tax status. And I'm sure we're all human. This is a professional setting, but let us be reminded that we're all human. Anytime you're diagnosed with an illness like that, and anytime you have to undergo major life-changing surgery, sometimes things slip through the cracks. Okay. During that time, I took full assumption and full responsibility for all of my mother's financial obligations. However, I was not aware of this obligation in Blackstone, Virginia, because I had not been made aware of anything since my name was added on to the deed in 2015. So, case in point, the notice should have never been sent to the attorney's office because it was due to negligence on the town manager's part. Now, whether he wants to own that or not, that's the reason. Reason being, there was negligence on that officer's part, and Miss Brittany, I presume that's who this young lady is over here.
Treasurer.
She admitted that, hey, I did not include the full address. We did not receive the notice, and if you do not receive, like if I was not properly notified, there's no reason that it should have gone to the town manager, because again, that's negligence on their part. And so all we're asking is, we're not negating that we owe those delinquent taxes. It's not a problem for those delinquent taxes to be paid, okay? The only thing that we are negating is those attorney's fees. Because
$468.
that $468. Because it never should have been sent to the attorney's office. And I'm pretty privy to the practices of attorneys. They're pretty good abiders of the law. If you send certified mail for so much as a grass cut, surely I cannot imagine a barred lawyer would not think it appropriate to send a certified notice
Well, someone losing their home,
for
perhaps.
somebody losing their home.
Did
All right.
the county send notice? Are they delinquent taxes at the county level too? I take it is. If it haven't been paid for the town, then it's for the county as well.
I want to give the town manager very patient and Ms. Boney, I thank you. You were very clear. Mr. Van Norbeck.
Get to the microphone.
Yes.
The issue of whether you pay the attorney's fee is for the council to decide. That's at your pleasure.
Right.
The end result is, from 2012 to 2014, I don't know when her name was put on the deed. She claims 2015, and that's fine if it were put on the deed. We use the addresses provided and the names provided by the Nottaway County. And that has to be changed at the Nottaway County Commissioner of Revenue's office, whether they specifically added it or requested it to be added or not. Brittany uses a listing and addressing that is provided to her by the county.
And so with the Crew treasurer and the Brookville treasurer,
Everybody
we only have
uses
one
the
commissioner.
same documentation.
Right.
Okay, so when we speak of negligence, the negligence is not that it was sent. We didn't know Miss White. Brittany didn't know, and this came to me later, but I had no idea, she had no idea that Miss White has cancer. We make payment arrangements for folks all the time. All the time. A simple phone call would have made the difference in the world, and Brittany would have extended. We're not some kind of an uncaring group of folks. We certainly would have made an arrangement. So whether or not you paid a $468, that's your guys' call. That's a decision for y'all to make, whether you feel like it needs to be done. But as far as the claims of negligence, there is no negligence. The address, there was a letter sent by Brittany about the apology. I think that taking this to a whole nother level doesn't make sense. If they're asking for a waiver of the $468, if you guys choose to do that, but Brittany was certainly not negligent, nor was the town. And yes, the payments had not been received. And the payment agreement had not been lived up to.
What year was the payment plan set up, roughly?
17.
Okay.
I have a question for the manager.
Yes, Mr. Green has a
What I want to know is I want to know if, I agree, things like this should be done by certified mail. I also know that I hire contractors that I wish they would do a little bit better job. I understand that. I think going forward that we should require our contractors, which is a credit agency or whatever,
An attorney.
well, we should require that. I agree. My question's simple. If we would have sent this via certified mail, would these charges, $400 and some charges?
No,
would-
the $468 kicked on as soon as Brittany sent it to Mr. Elliott.
Okay, because they were delinquent. Didn't have anything, so my question, if she's out because she wasn't notified, then I think we ought to entertain it. If it had nothing to do with the policy or the certified mail or anything else, I have a problem making the taxpayers pay that.
Well, the act of sending it to Jim Elliott triggered the $468. He won't
Public hearing.
accept a payment plan until such time.
Mr. Tom Taylor, briefly.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I know this family for years. I went through that same situation they went through. Only thing I was different, I was here to deal with. I mean, I was here to deal with it. I went through that same situation that Tia went through and her mama went through, when her mama and daddy died. I went through that same situation. Parents, we accepted the responsibility. So I went through that same situation they went through with taxes being delinquent and all that. I went through that, but I was here that I could deal with it. But I understand, Tia was not here. She was away. Her mama was away. So they didn't know. And this situation needed to be handled. She shouldn't be burdened with lawyer's fees if she wasn't aware of anything.
Well, I think what Mr. Green's question did establish is that even if it had been sent certified, there would have been legal fees involved. But had they received it, it would have avoided the embarrassment of being placed in the newspaper.
And it could have been a little more.
And that is a fairly significant deal. I know Miss White, and she is someone, and her daughter obviously are trying to do the right. She acknowledged, look, we owe money, we're gonna pay it.
I wouldn't like it either, and she ought to take due recourse to a court of law, sue the town. But I don't see how we can pay attorney fees to the third party. The third party, we don't have anything to do with it. Why are we paying attorney's fees on something third party? It's an arm's length transaction. If
Does this $400
so,
and some dollars include the county's fees as well? Because the county has the
County
same,
doesn't have anything to do with this situation.
well, I mean, we get the notices from the county that it's
Oh,
due.
right.
I mean, so
Yeah.
obviously the county has taxes that are backed as well.
We don't know whether the county is.
But the foreclosure was for delinquent town taxes, it wasn't for delinquent county. Was a foreclosure ad based on delinquent town taxes?
Well, it wasn't foreclosure, it was a tax sale. It's
Tax
not
sale,
foreclosure.
right, tax
I
sale.
don't think the tax sale was imminently gonna happen. I think.
No, but it was in the paper for the county as
Notice.
well, so,
Was it? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good, that's what I was looking for. Yes, Tia.
The point that kind of seems to be, swept under the rug is how it got from the town manager's office to the attorney's office. Okay, that point seems to keep, that line seems to keep getting blurred.
could he answer that? Because I'd
I
like to
think I know,
know.
I think I know the answer is, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking out loud, is the answer because there was no payment? The payment was,
Failure to make payments on it.
No,
2 months.
right.
That's correct. January and February, no payments were received. There was a payment made in, if you read the timeline.
Right, there was a payment
Right,
plan,
so-
right.
The town's payment plan, 2 payments had been received, her mother was sick, and we
Right.
get that, and we understand, but we hadn't had any notice or anything from Miss White, we didn't know she was sick, and so Brittany made a list of people that were in arrears that hadn't looked up the payment agreements, she sent them on to.
right. I understand that. She looked up the payment agreements and all of that, and I'm not trying to use my mother's illness as an excuse. But the point is, before the foreclosure was put in the paper, all parties who are owners of the property were not properly notified, and that is negligence on the office's part because they did not include the correct address.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. I agree with
So-
you. That, I understand that. But you're grouping in attorney fees that are not involving the town of Blackstone. My 3,785 bosses don't have anything to do with that. Okay, so what you're doing is you're grouping the two together. It is a horrible thing to be notified it's gonna be a foreclosure when it's not. That's fine. Then the recourse would be through the courts. What you're asking us to do is to pay attorney fees that we have nothing to do with because.
Right.
Basically because the notice in the paper.
But
No,
Tia,
no.
Tia is someone whose name is on the deed, was never notified. Her mother was fighting cancer. If Tia had got notifications.
I buried my mother last winter from
Right.
cancer.
What I'm
breast
hearing
cancer.
Tia say,
understand.
if you had notification, oh, mom's got an issue here,
Then it would have been
we'd
handled.
never gone to the attorney's office.
Right, that, and so
That's not what the town manager testified. He said that when the 2 payments that were supposed to be made weren't made, it triggered contacting the collection agent. And then those attorney fees cash register wrong.
But was Tia part of that process?
Why, right,
Because
And there-
if we were to argue this in a court of law, this was 2012, 2014.
We want to avoid the court of law. We're all trying to.
I'm just trying to say, that these fees were before her ownership. And
No,
and
these-
if you've got a gripe, which I think you do, it's with the with the Commissioner of Revenue.
no, my gripe is
They're
with,
the ones that notify us. That's our conduit to get this information. So
my gripe is with the lack of proper protocol and procedure for how people or how owners are properly notified of issues. That is my gripe. There should not and this is not just with me, this is with anybody. This is with any taxpayer. If you are delinquent, you are first notified that you are delinquent, okay? Normally you are notified via certified means that you are delinquent. If you are notified, after you are notified by certified means, after you are made aware that, hey, this is the next course of action, because whenever you enter into agreement, you already know what the end clause is if one party does not hold up to the end of the agreement. However, there is still a responsibility on both parties to say, hey, Miss White, you missed a payment, but hey, listen, there's another name added to this deed. Let's go ahead and notify this one and see if we can't get it, right? And that is my point. So,
Right. And I agree with your point. I think everybody here agrees with that point. I think what the town manager would say is the Commissioner of Revenue, and we're not trying to pass the buck, but the Commissioner of Revenue, we need to have communication with the Commissioner of Revenue to make sure.
Well, I think that the issue is before anything can be sold, even in real estate, anybody in real estate, before anything can be sold, there has to be a proper title search conducted. And that title search is gonna pick up multiple owners.
Yeah, Tia.
And that is when the formalized notification would have to take place.
no, and that is a flawed procedure.
Okay, well, why don't we make the laws like it?
That is a flawed
We need to learn,
procedure.
we need to make, like I said, I will say this, we've got a very dedicated treasurer, and she's made a good, the payment plan, we overwhelmed her the last 3 or 4 months with utility bill payment plans, and I will speak for the town manager and staff. We do have a heart. This is, that, I'm amazed, I'm alarmed by I think one good thing that's gonna come out of this is we're gonna make sure that Attorney Elliott certification, certified letters on things like this. But the only request you have before this council tonight is waiving the attorney's fees.
no, it's not waiving attorney's fees for us. It's for the town to pay the attorney's
I'm sorry,
fees.
for pay the attorney's fees because he did incur the services. And it's a shame.
Yeah, they
Right.
would, they said,
Right.
we're not gonna wait.
She would contend they could have been avoided, but the fact of the matter is, attorney's done his work, and people who do work expect to get paid by somebody. So, members of council, what is your pleasure?
I have one question.
Yes.
And I hope I got the timeline straight. Was Miss White and/or people involved not aware that there was a tax delinquency on that property? And I would think that they did because they had already made some payments on it.
The payment plan was between the town treasurer and Miss Brenda White, that's correct. It was not between Tia.
Right.
Was-
But that was the name on there.
Right.
And,
But she wasn't the only owner of the property. Tia's also,
well, I understand that, but when it comes time to collect on something that, payment plan's been set up, payments have been made and received, and all of a sudden, they're not made anymore. Do you put an ad in the newspaper? Is there anybody else on this property that needs to be notified? I would suggest that the town acted properly. Now, whether the attorney, that attorneys did the fees, not the town. So, the town is out of it.
what I've heard Tia say tonight is, and she's not using as an excuse, is that the devastating news of the breast cancer kind of took the payment plan, all of a sudden there were other priorities, and that they still want to own up to. But that's what caused the stoppage in the payment. And then next thing you know, the attorney sends a letter, wasn't even certified, ends up getting the newspaper because there was no response. and that's where we are tonight. And I see Mr. Nathaniel, but we do need to move. We have a pretty big, we have a presentation of a budget tonight. Yes, Mr. Miller.
So what I'm gathering is, what you all are saying is, if a telephone call would have been made, then all of this would have been avoided. Is this what I'm hearing?
Well, I think what the town manager said, he had no idea if anyone had known. I think the track record the town has, if once they're notified of a hardship, even with the payment plan, I believe the town manager and the treasurer would have said, look, this is one of those situations.
My question is, what you're saying, if somebody would have made a phone call and that y'all were aware of Miss White having an illness, then it wouldn't have went this far.
I think that's correct.
That's what I'm
believe that's
saying.
correct.
That's what I'm hearing too. You and I thinking alike.
I think the town manager said that. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Is that what y'all hear?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, her grandmother and grandfather worked hard for that house. But I know that 'cause my parents in that neighborhood still, and I'm still that neighborhood. That they would have made sure everything been paid. Tia would have made sure everything been paid if y'all had proper communication. That's all. It took a phone call or a letter. Just trying to do a trick, wink, wink, and a nod, nod.
I think that's a little bit more sinister than reality, but I do know the family. I think you're right about the family history.
So
We're here tonight, and that's where we are tonight.
So and one more thing I wanted to point out, the payment plan was entered in 2017, in December of 2017. That is 2 years after my name was on the deed. Now, no, my name is not noted as being a part of that payment plan. However, the payment plan was not entered, we did not enter the payment plan until December of 2017. My name was already on the deed. So,
You would have made an outstanding attorney.
well, thank you.
You have a excellent level of tact.
That bastard white granddaughter, you know that.
Thank you.
Let's see. What does council want to do? This is
Well, I just want to make the statement, if we were waiving a fee of, in-kind services we did in-house, I would think, under the circumstances, we ought to entertain it, but we're asking the taxpayer to pay attorney fees on a third-party transaction. So, that's just my opinion.
And Mr. Elliott, he refuses to waive.
He did incur a service, but it's a shame the service ever had to be provided because it could have been avoided. Not through any willful neglect on the town's part. I do stand with the town staff on that. And the Commissioner of Revenue, we've learned two little bugs today. We've learned bug number one, we need to make sure Mr. Elliott sends certified letters, or at least beg him to.
He's gonna have to charge that
Oh,
fee
yeah, he's
back
gonna
to
charge
the
it back to
property.
And ask the Commissioner of Revenue when she sends information to that about who owns the property, that we get all the owners. Yes, Brittany.
Okay, when, not only sends us the tax tickets, it's two names, so say Brenda White, care of Latia Boney, but it is just one mailing address. So we can change the mailing address if you'd rather the tax tickets come to you. If you wanna be responsible, you just call the commissioner's office, and we can change the mailing address and switch names, but we don't have the authority here to change anything.
Just arbitrarily do that.
Right, and but see, switching names and like that's not even a question. The question is, yes, you have the address, yes, you have Brenda White listed. However, the full address was not included when the original notice was sent.
I feel like the reason why you weren't notified is because the only address that the commissioner
Wanted to
gave
bring
us
Tucker
was
in.
Brenda's. We don't
Was
have any of the-
right. It was okay. I see your
I think
point.
another valuable lesson, and y'all happen to be the guinea pig, so to speak, is that other residents in this situation need to make sure they notify the Commissioner of Revenue at the courthouse.
They are the
There's only
ones
one.
that put the address on the ticket.
Right.
And then they just send it to us and we just mail it.
Okay,
All right,
duly noted.
Mr. Tucker's coming. Members of council, what is your pleasure? I'm gonna let Mr. Tucker get in here, because glad to see 7 today. No tiebreaker for the mayor tonight.
Put my shoes up, go to bed. How y'all doing?
Good. Mr. Tucker, we are discussing, there's a request before the council to pay the attorney bill of $468 to Mr. James Elliott. He's our delinquent tax attorney for the Brenda White situation on, is it Fitzgerald? It's Fitzgerald Street. Yes,
Fitzgerald Street, yes.
The great reunion. We've heard compelling 30 minutes of testimony, and council's probably gonna be making a motion.
Testify.
Hey, go down with this. Doesn't have to get in.
I'll switch spots, right? I don't
I'm
care.
in the wrong spot now. You know I'm too up in the.
You're going out of the bank now.
I ain't getting home for 5:30. Get to the house for 5:30.
Put you in the doghouse.
It's all right. I stay there most of the time. You good?
Straighten up, man.
Well, members of council, what is your pleasure?
I would like to ask a question.
You ain't looking at me.
You did ask, Mr. Elliott, would he waive his fees?
We called him, he said he would not waive it.
This is pretty much what he does. I mean, he does his work for a lot of counties. This
He
is,
does thousands of these things.
yeah, this is like, you know,
And he said he would not waive it.
Well, you know, we're always raising Cain about the money we spend for somebody not doing nothing. That's a perfect example, because, you know, he really didn't do anything, but I understand what you're saying too. I mean, you got him under contract.
And the payments will go through Mr. Elliott in the
Yes.
future, so he will process that.
he's one of the best things ever happened in Ottawa County as far as the taking care of delinquent
He
properties.
does a bunch of them.
And other counties as well. Well, this is one of those, unfortunately. What do you want to do, folks? You got all kinds of latitude. You could go 50-50. You could do all of it. You could deny the request, but the council does have the. Mr. Moncur shakes his head. It's
No, I'm just, it's puzzling, the whole thing is.
Is it possible for me to say one more little
one more
small
thing.
piece?
Yes, indeed.
Just one more little small piece?
Yes.
So, I heard the claim that, you know, well, there were two names, there was only one name, and we didn't have the other name was added. But, you know, may I give a friendly reminder that, you know, this is not 1915, where, you know, we live in the age of social media. We live in the age of Google. We live in the age of Amazon Fire. If you Google the name Latia Boney, I guarantee you will be able to find me.
Right, but I can't
You know,
send out notices that you
right.
accept the address not always sent.
Right. And the address that you sent, you didn't send it to the full address.
Hold on, Miss Boney.
But my, I'm sorry.
Just hold on just a sec. So you're saying you legally can't send anything except what's on that
The
slip?
Commissioner of Revenue sends to the town of Blackstone.
That's legal
Whatever's on
document.
the tax card is on the tax card.
Right,
That's what we
right.
go
Right,
by.
the miscommunication was between me and James Elliott for the address, but as far as the actual tax bills that the town sends out, they were all sent correctly from 2012 to 17, the tax bills and the delinquent tax letters from the town. But it was a miscommunication for the address between James Elliott and I, but not previous tax bills.
Right.
Right, because those were all sent to the correct address. The only point that I want to make is I'm not nobody's hard to find. You know, if I had committed a crime, you know, you'd find me. Though I live out of state, you would have found me extremely quickly. You know, I mean, I have an iPhone. There are trackers on those things.
Right.
So that's the last piece of evidence that I wanted.
Well, I would like to make a motion. I make a motion that we help her and pay half of it, because Mr. Elliott is the one that's did the work, and he's not gonna help you. I mean, he wants his money, so I would just make a motion to that effect.
What half would be $239? Would that be right? What is it? What is it? What is Mr. Elliott's bill?
$468.
So it'd be $239. Is that right? $234. Mr. Thompson's made a motion to pay $234 to Mr. Elliott, with Brenda and/or Tia paying the other balance. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Scott has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Are we still on the roll? Was the roll call Mr. Hammer last time?
I think Mr. Scott was last time.
So we continue with that. Do we continue with
No,
that?
we're in June.
We're in June, so okay. You've heard the motion's been second. We'll start with Mr. Green.
No.
Aye.
Nay.
The motion fails 4-3.
I make a motion to pay $175 of the bill for the simple fact, it were error on both sides, I understand that. And I do feel for you, but I mean, if we can lessen it, the more, the better. I mean, it's $100.
I ask you if you wanna do something on the debt, but this is a third-party transaction. The citizens of Blackstone are paying an attorney that town doesn't have anything to do with.
Let's take a little brief time out. The motion failed 4-3 to pay half. That's correct. Is that correct? Want to make sure I'm right.
Oh, you're looking at.
The motion Ms. Thompson made did fail 4-3.
No, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You went yes,
All right.
no, yes.
All right. Mr. Nash is talking about not paying 234, but paying 175,
Yeah, I mean,
which is basically a difference of $59. But that's your motion?
I mean, I just get it from when you look at your tax bill, it says on there, if you don't get notice for a certain property that you have, it's your responsibility to contact the Commissioner of Revenue. And so a lot of the fault is not on the town of Blackstone. A lot of it lies in the owner itself and then the Commissioner of Revenue. So I don't,
So why you want the
Excuse me,
taxpayers
what'd
to
you
pay
just
it?
say? If you don't get notice,
you don't get notice, it is the property owner's responsibility. It says on the bottom of the bill that if you don't receive all your tax bills, it's your responsibility to call them and tell them that you don't have it.
okay.
It says it on every tax bill.
Well, if that's the case, then what, you
I'm
want the
trying
tax?
to be a little kind-hearted, that's
Well,
all.
I'm
I mean,
kind-hearted too, but you're asking the taxpayers to pay this.
I know.
Okay,
And to be honest, no, we shouldn't pay any of it.
All right.
I understand that.
well, then don't make the motion.
Make the motion.
The motion's on the floor. Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion to pay 175 of the legal bill?
Second.
All right, Ms. Thompson, second that motion.
Offer substitute motion to deny the request.
All right. Is there a second? The substitute motion does take priority under Robert's Rules of Order. Mr. Green's made a substitute motion to deny. Is there a second to Mr. Green's substitute motion?
Second.
Mr. Moncur has seconded. We will take up the substitute motion first as under Robert's Rules of Order, and we will start with Mr. Green.
Aye.
Nay.
The motion is to deny, to not pay anything to the lawyer.
No, I can't go with that.
Okay, 2 noes.
Just because we'll be at the same point we were 2 minutes ago. Nay.
Well, I've already.
You've already voted. So what did that, can we,
All right, so you're voting to deny.
this was substitute motion was to deny. I believe it carried 4-3.
So if you vote yes for this, we pay the whole thing.
No, right now,
It's
no.
gonna just be dead. I mean,
Okay,
We're gonna-
so if you voted motion to deny, then if you vote yes, you're denying it.
That's correct. There was a yes,
Yes, no.
and there was a yes, and there was a yes. So that motion failed 4-3. So we're basically back at square one. Now we go back to Mr. Nash's motion, the prevailing motion, the main motion. This is called the main motion. Mr. Nash has moved to pay 175, and Ms. Thompson seconded that motion.
Nay.
I'm gonna just make sure we're square. So we had motion number one
Well,
fail.
we're beating this to death.
I know we are, but we want to beat it to death correctly. Motion number one failed 4-3. That was to pay half.
I've had enough of this.
Hold on a second. Let's order. The substitute motion failed. Now we're voting on Mr. Nash's main motion to pay 175, and we start with Mr. Green.
Nay.
Aye.
This is to pay 175 of the $468 legal bill for Brenda White and her daughter. Nay, okay.
Nay.
What was that vote? 4-3 failed? All right, so basically, after 3 motions, we are back at where we started from. I'm gonna veto the last motion that failed, which does nothing as well. I think the council should pay half. But the problem is, when you veto a negative action, you still, the slate is still clean. After we've had 3 motions and a veto, and we are back at status, we are back to where we were at 6 PM tonight. Is any other motion to come before this council on this matter? Because if not, the matter is $468 that they have to pay.
It dies on the vine, yeah. then-
The appeal would fail.
That's the appeal, yeah.
I do think Ms. Thompson's motion was in order, but that's just the way it goes. It was a 4-3 vote, and we thank you for your time, and I don't know what to say. That resolves that matter. We have to move on to the budget presentation. All right, Mr. Town Manager, or Mr. Green, Chairman Green, on the presentation of the budget. We thank you for coming here tonight, and
Okay, I'll be glad to take it up.
yes.
At your desk, you have a proposed budget for 2019. I want to start off with a couple of caveats. There was, we have not received a concrete number from VEMA on the electric rates. We've been led to believe there could be a 2.1% decrease.
When were we supposed to, isn't it June
We
1?
were supposed to have it, but they don't have it. So we've been given an estimate. I will ask the council to go ahead and let us advertise with no increase, because we can always go down, but we can't go up.
When is their drop dead deadline?
June 1st.
June 1st?
So,
FEMA received it yesterday. We talked to Mark Bly, the president, and they received it from Dominion yesterday. I do think we have an expectation. We received from Steven Spiegel with GDS, which is the consultant that does this calculation for FEMA, that he believes it's going to be a 2.1% decrease.
And
So
we'll
you're saying,
pass that.
but you're saying advertise,
Advertise at no increase,
so you can always make
so we
things
can go
lesser
down.
for the benefit of the
And
consumer.
my recommendation,
It's not final, and I was like, dude, I
so
got
this
a
is
meeting,
better
I
than
gotta
what we
have something.
it's
anticipated.
better, but we don't have a final number. I'm giving us a 2%
Yeah.
gap here that we've got
that's
an
fine.
insurance
It
plan.
makes sense, yeah.
But my recommendation would be to pass through the decrease on the electric rate. So, that being said, also, there's some discussion amongst the Building Properties Committee about the burial fee, raising it from 100 to 200. Let's go ahead and advertise it, and then we may come back and have discussion about that, okay?
You say, it says cemetery burial fee increase of 100%.
$100 to $200, yes, sir.
Okay, duh, okay.
Is it a death tax or burial fee?
Whatever you want
Depends
to
on
call
what
it.
hat I'm wearing.
So I'll
Depends on what hat I'm
go,
wearing.
so what I'd like to do is go through the budget highlights, and if anybody has any questions, please stop me and we'll go from there.
Looks good.
The budget is balanced at $912,429. All tax rates remain the same.
Can you stop for a second and explain that it's higher, East End, correct?
Yes, East End is in this, and,
Higher than normal.
right, that's correct. But we'll get to the East End, on the capital outlay projects. All tax rates remain the same. The overall health insurance increase of 7%, which was $49,464, increase has been absorbed in this budget. DBI has, their contribution has been cut to a 60-40 match, and that reduction is $5,170.
What's the total DP in the budget? What is the total contribution?
$39,000 even.
So one time the town was paying 65 a year for DBI, now we're down to 39,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is,
Some change, I believe, but I think.
right.
Okay.
There's a 3% increase for all town associates, excluding 9 based on a merit program, and two employees receiving 2% increase based on supervisor recommendation.
What are the 9 getting? They're only getting 3%.
They're not getting anything, and 2 will receive 2%.
I got you, okay.
And then the remainder,
Hold on, let me save your question. I'm gonna let Mr. Green go through the budget presentation, and then we'll get to the question, the first question, I promise. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
we spoke about this cemetery burial fee increase. The committee is recommending a 100% increase to $200. The enterprise funds, the electric rates would stay the same. That's what we're going to advertise. I'm hoping to come back and say we're going to have a 2% decrease. So it's my intention to pass through the decrease. Town water and sewer rates remain the same. There's a decreased usage will lead to a decrease in our projected revenue. Nevertheless, there'll be no increase or decrease on taxes. The capital improvement projects included in this budget is a stormwater project at the airport, where we're going to put the stormwater drain in, and then our remaining properties will be of much more value. There's $80,000 put aside for road repair at the airport. The street department, we need a new tractor that will handle the bush hog and loader and that kind of stuff. We have some alley storm drain work that's been punted down the road on the alley behind the east side of Main Street, behind Moncur Insurance and behind the town square.
And that, just so you know, that's what we have it labeled, but also includes water and sewer replacements in Amelia Avenue, from the bridge back to Nottaway Avenue. in anticipation of a road paving and sidewalk kind of a project down through there. So we call it alleyway, but that does include that project in your district.
And in the school sidewalk project, we've applied for a grant for $206,000. The town match would be $52,000 cash and in kind. We'll hear about that shortly. We've been punting this problem down the road about refurbishing our peak generators, and we put that in this budget, $276,786. $90,000 you see in your packet for a digger truck. That's a post, the post hole digger for the line. It also has a crane or a boom on it if you need to pick up a transformer or something. And it's estimated $180,000, and we're budgeting $90,000 to have half this
Come out,
year.
let your revenue. Come
That's
out.
correct. And we're pretty much to the point that all these funds are segregated, and the funds are paying for the department funds.
Not general fund.
Not general fund, okay? The water and sewer, at Williams Pond, the pump station there, we need to refurbish the pump, and that's $30,000. There's some aeration upgrades. One of them is at the reservoir. It's $25,000. And the last project in capital improvement is the East End project, which is $1.526 million. The water and sewer portion of that, if we don't get a grant, is how much, Philip?
1.1 million, isn't it? The water sewer. What's the water sewer
Water
portion
sewer
of
is
East End?
1.2.
Hang on a second, 1.2.
Yep, so there's $300,000 in this for curb and gutter and concrete with a $250,000 state match. But if we don't receive that match, we're not gonna be able to afford to do that. So this will drop back to 1.2 for the water and sewer.
When will we hear about East End?
July, should be.
July.
Usually there's announcements.
Open July.
Some governments send it out as one block announcement, some just kind of let it leak out.
If it's denied with
At
us,
least,
with
at
us
a certain
putting in
time.
1.5 million.
Then there's no need to apply for a grant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the grant's very attractive. So, that's the highlights. I don't really think everybody wants to go through
No.
on and on.
Budget payment plan, is that gonna be in the budget?
You have a,
Budget. For the budget payment plan is, we assume the next council will take this on as a matter.
Right.
We have a full-time position
So yes,
to
there's a-
handle making what we need to do to get started on it and
Beginning
changing the
in
billing
spring.
structures and all that.
of 19.
Very
We have
important, very important.
One of the things that Jennifer pointed out to me just a minute ago while Ben was speaking, it's not on your sheet. She asked me to also note that there's an upgrade to our AS 400 scheduled this year, and it's about $48,000, and I think you had,
And we had 10 in there to facilitate the budget thing, that's a $10,000 upgrade to our system.
we will try to
With
position.
Brighton Associates is good with that, that's our billing provider, isn't that right, computer, Bright? And they're, you said the last council meeting, I remember that Bright was favorable, you
Oh, yeah,
mentioned.
Jennifer had done some research with them, yeah.
Amended our billing.
Wow.
Instead of getting a card, you actually get an envelope with a bill in it, correct?
At 8.5 by 11 to allow people to sign up for that budget plan.
If anybody gets the Southside bills, it shows trends and it shows usages and all that, it'll be more in line with that.
Wow.
than it is now.
Would that be any increased postage for the town?
I think the card's probably less expensive than an individual, but it's still on bulk rate, and
Gotcha.
it may be a nominal amount, but.
I think it's the same price.
well, there you go.
Good, okay. I want to just real quick, Nathaniel Miller, you had a question during the middle of Mr.
As I asked the question last year, how are you going about, okay, I see you got 3% salary increase for all, excluding 9 employees based on supervisor merit, and 2 employees receiving only a 2% increase based on supervisor recommendation. How are you going about this?
Well,
That's the same question.
I'll take a stab at that. Several members of this council, Mr. Nash has been very vocal about that. In years past, even in some years when maybe Mr. Green, term number 1, it may not have, in hindsight, couldn't afford it. It was 2%, 3%, several years 4% across the board. And that's fine, and I can tell you right now, I don't know a town employee right now that's not, in my limited interactions, that's not worth a raise. But Mr. Nash has been very vocal about, look, let's reward those who are really getting the job done. Now, this council is not capable because we have other jobs. We rely on the town manager and department heads to say, hey, look, John Doe's cutting it, Jane Doe's slacking, or vice versa. And so that's what we delegate to the department heads. Now, certainly it's subjective. I think I know what you're getting at. It may be that if, say, a supervisor and an employee, may not always agree on things, maybe just bad personalities. That certainly could cloud someone's judgment, but I think the department heads we have here, the ones I know anyway, look past personality. Like, look, are they showing the work on time? Are they getting the job done? Are they? That's what I hope and pray the criteria is. Mr. Van am I right?
Well, if you don't mind,
Yes.
Mayor, we added another layer to that, Mr. Miller. Mr. Van Orbeck and I sat down and went through every associate.
Every
Based
name.
on every name, based on the recommendation of the supervisor and his recommendation, and I prepared a report and gave that to Finance Committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please hold on. Mr. Miller has the floor. Let's no chatter. Mr. Miller.
Okay. What are your garbage men getting? 3%?
Yes.
We gave all the garbage men an individual raise. Anybody that
In
was
December,
making-
several of them got $1 an hour raise, I believe.
Anybody that was making below $9 an hour was automatically bumped up to $9 an hour, and then they got up to.
Because it's been said that I'm a troublemaker. I'm not asking you these questions to try to create no trouble.
I don't feel like
I'm
you're.
trying to ask you these questions so when somebody asks me, I can tell them.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like you are.
You're
So
seeking.
I'm saying now, you saying that if the garbage man was making under $9, you gave him a raise.
We gave-
Back in December.
and- Well, this budget also, it shows that
Okay.
anybody that was making less than $9 is now $9 at a minimum. We hire guys to cut the grass, the guys to pick up the trash. We hire at 9. We've been hiring at 8.
Mr. Payne and Mr. Hicks are also getting a $2 an hour raise too, plus the 3% in this budget.
Correct, and 3% would be on top of the $9.
Correct, and then all the CDL drivers, garbage.
Right.
$13.
$13.
So we elevated.
It's more
any
than
of it-
meets the eye. It's been looked at.
And we also have, now am I correct? We also have less employees. That's one of the reasons we want to do this. We had department head retire, David Ostrander, and Gwinneth, and we hired obviously a younger candidate at less salary. So that's given us the wiggle room. I think one thing that Mr. Miller, that I heard, Mr. Green, I know, and I've said this myself, I think anyone that runs a business wants a lean, maybe have the fewest number of employees possible, but they be great employees so you can afford to pay them because you got less of them. And I think that's where the direction the town's gone under Mr. Van Orbeck. It hadn't been easy.
The only garbage that is not getting a merit increase is the new position that we are hiring for, correct?
I think that's correct. The gentleman that only
That's
been
the
here a
only
month or
one,
two.
so the other ones are in the 3% merit raise.
We had 3 individuals, I think, that are not actually getting raises because they've only been here a few months. We have certainly the gentleman that we just hired at the wastewater plant had been here a very short time, and you may have the list. And I think we have a CD. There you go. You got a CDL driver. New CDL driver who's a garbage truck driver, named John Gordon. Great fellow. I've
We'll
met him
have
a
a
few
public
times.
hearing.
I don't know if y'all know him, but
For the
remember
budget.
Robert Evans? He has
Yeah.
technically retired,
Has he really?
but he's still working for us part-time.
Love that man.
And so Mr. Gordon came to us as a applicant looking for a job. He had a CDL, which is a hard thing to get, and he's been driving the truck. He can't work full-time because of his retirement obligations, nor can Robert, so they're almost doing a job share. And Robert's actually helping out cutting grass in the cemetery. He was in there.
Do you have any other questions about the budget, Mr. Miller?
The main thing we want to do tonight is council, Mr. Green wants you to vote to advertise for budget for public hearing.
Does the council have any questions
Exactly.
about the budget?
Just have we gotten the study back on the pole attachment fees?
Tessie and I met today, as a matter of fact. You
So
will
that's
have-
the Nash fee.
It is our expectation that Tessie will have that prepared this month. She was in my office today, and
So we can see it in the budget,
we will probably have to make an appropriation to the.
But that could be like another 25 grand a year.
hopefully.
The number that was quoted to me was $26,000.
So
Hopefully,
that's 26,000 that we
Where
could
would
be
you,
missing for a while.
where would you envision Mr. Nash or anybody that money going into? What fund would it go? Electrical fund or?
I would dare say anything collective would either go to capital improvement. I wouldn't do it for something in the ongoing. I would either put it in a capital or a reserve contribution of some sort.
Or weatherization?
You budget,
Weatherization.
yeah, something that you're not budgeting because we don't get
Yeah,
it.
it's going to be budgeted, whatever
Yeah.
it goes to. I mean,
Any other questions?
No, I,
I move that council authorize the town manager to advertise the budget as presented.
second.
motion has been made by Mr. Green and Mr. Tucker has seconded the motion to advertise for public hearing on June the, when do we meet? June the 17th at 7 o'clock. The 18th, Monday, June 18th.
With adoption expected on the 27th.
And at that time, when will the new council members-elect be sworn in?
I have talked to Jane, and she's not sure if she can be here tonight, but she said one of her clerks can be here But that's the plan is on June 18th, and I'll give y'all, send y'all an email.
So not the council meeting.
Okay.
The night of the council meeting, we'll swear the new members.
Effective July 1st, okay.
Can-
All right.
Is there any, I mean, I hate to say this, but is there any way we can do that on the night that we adopt it? Because I will not be here on the 18th. I mean,
Good point. Or you could do them separately, could do it, to me, the ideal night to swear everybody in would be the, later in the,
Yeah, right before.
that last meeting of the fiscal year.
Do it on the 27th?
Yeah.
I'd rather
Yeah.
be here to.
Yeah. We won't miss an Asher. He's got to take another, they got another term to do. Let's stick to the matter at hand. The motion made and duly seconded to advertise the budget public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have another matter, Mayor.
Yeah, and Madam Clerk has one too.
Let me go first.
Probably the same thing.
Okay.
I want to offer council a motion for the town to pay for any educational opportunities for the new council or the incumbents from VML, specifically the seminar for newly elected officials, and I would like council to pay the fees, less any alcohol consumed or spouses' fees, and I would like the council members to be reimbursed mileage or furnished transportation by the town.
All right. Mr. Green's made that motion, and just for the audience benefit, there is a seminar, I believe it's Thursday, July 19th, and Friday, July 20th, for newly elected council members, and any incumbent is welcome as well. Is there a second to Mr. Green's motion? I'm going to give that second to Madam President. Give that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Madam Clerk, was that your point?
Yep, that was it.
What else do we have on the agenda? We had something else, didn't we?
We have a closed
Oh,
session.
we do have a closed session for personnel. Yeah, but before we go in closed session, anyone have any other comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion to go in closed session for the bus shop.
So moved.
Motion been made by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Tucker. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand in closed session.
Sorry I was late.
It's all right.
And me too.
Hey,